Most motorcycle tours don't go wrong because of the bike, they go wrong because of bad decisions. In this video, I'm going to try and iron out a few of those bad decisions for you. Stay tuned. Hi folks, Carl here from Let's Ride Bikes. So after years of riding bikes, doing tours, organising tours, being the tour planner, being the tour guide, leading tours across Europe and the UK, advanced riding instruction, learner rider instruction, and listening to plenty of horror stories from tourers, I've noticed that the same mistakes happen again and again. So in this video, I'm going to talk about touring mistakes that new tourers make, and more importantly, how to avoid them. And make sure you stay to the end of the video where I give you a bonus tip that I genuinely think can save your whole trip. So let's get started. If you're new here, my name's Carl, I've already said that. And on this channel, I'm going to be talking about motorcycle touring, adventure riding, adventure touring, road safety, rider skills, and life on two wheels. I'm also recently started planning a big tour for us for next year. That's me and my wife, and we're going to be touring Turkey. Now at the moment, throughout the summer period between April and November, we live on board our yacht in Greece, and we were thinking about selling the boat, going back to the UK and just starting doing the touring business again. But we still love this idea of living on a boat here. So we're moving back to England over the winter period only, where we can do a little bit of work, top the funds up, and then that allows us to do our travelling adventures throughout the summer, whether it's by bike or by boat. But what we're planning at the moment is for next May, we're planning to do a tour from Crete, which is where we live, over to Turkey and up to Cappadocia, do a bit of a circular in Turkey, and then return back to Crete before sailing for the summer. So that's all in hand. Each day I'm doing a little bit more of the planning for that one, route planning, etc. We still haven't got the bike to do it on yet. I took a BMW GS 1200 for a test ride the other day, but it had a few niggles. The ABS wasn't working, the fuel gauge didn't work, which is common on that year of bike. So I'm still looking, with possibility of getting a Benelli 702, I think it is, the TDK. A friend's got one what he thinks he's selling. He's bought it 2 years ago. He's done about 1,000 kilometers on it. So that's an option. And there's also another couple of BMWs that we're going to have a look at. But anyway, let's move on. So one of the biggest mistakes I see riders doing when they're planning a tour is trying to put too many miles in a day. People claim huge mileages of 400 and 500 miles a day, thinking, yeah, we'll smash that out, no problem. Now I have done tours. I've arranged a tour where there was one day where we had to do 500 miles, and believe me, it was a killer. Now I'm a very experienced rider. I've done thousands of miles. I used to do 1,000 miles a week riding police bikes, done lots of touring. We was on a Harley Davidson Electric Glide, which is the bike built for touring, and even doing 500 miles on that bike, you still knew about it at the end of the day. You just wanted to drop. And some people put 400-500 miles onto a tour expecting that they're going to do it daily. Believe me, you're not. Touring's not a track day. It's not about how many miles you can do in the day. Touring's about enjoying where you are, seeing the different lifestyles, seeing the different people, meeting the different people, seeing the cultures, learning the landscape. You need to stop for fuel, for coffee, for photo breaks, for meals. You're going to get wrong turns, you might have border crossings, you might have diversions. Weather can be pretty terrible at times, and just life in general. And then fatigue kicks in, and tired riders make bad decisions. My advice for an enjoyable tour is to aim for between 150 and 250 miles maximum per day, and that leaves you time to actually enjoy where you are and where you're going. The next mistake is packing everything apart from the kitchen sink, and some people even take the kitchen sink. I've genuinely seen riders carrying enough luggage, enough bits and pieces to survive an apocalypse. I must admit, I've been guilty of it myself. When we first started doing our touring, and Jen wanted to bring the hairdryer, the curling tongs, the makeup, and a dress for each night at each destination, and you soon realise you don't need all that. We had massive top boxes and side panniers. I even had a tank bag, and I had a bag on top of the top box at times because we had a rack on that. And it was like, what do we need all this stuff for? We're bringing all these clothes, we're not going to wear it. When we arrive at our destination at night, we put on a pair of jeans or a pair of shorts, a pair of comfortable trainers or even Crocs, and a t-shirt and a sweatshirt if you need it. You don't need to have a different outfit for every night. If you're staying in hotels, you can wash your stuff in the hotel, dry it on the radiators overnight. If you're in a hot country, you can dry it first thing in the morning. It's not a problem. The reality is most riders use probably 30% of what they're carrying. And one thing to bear in mind is that overloaded bikes generally don't handle that well, especially in mountain roads, slow manoeuvres, gritty surfaces. Ideally, you want your bike as light as it can be. Pack lighter than you think you need, then take some of that stuff out. If you need new socks, you can buy a pair cheap enough. If you need new boxers, you can buy a pair cheap enough. If you need a t-shirt, you can buy a t-shirt cheap enough. Don't take your whole wardrobe, because I guarantee you're not going to be wearing it. And a lot of new touring riders imagine that every tour is going to be just like they see in the adverts. Sunny skies, blue seas, open roads, great surfaces, when in reality it's not always like that. We rode from, I think it was Czech Republic, in Prague in Czech Republic, to Frankfurt. That was one of our big days, and it rained all the way, 500 miles in torrential downpours. I even pulled in at a supermarket to buy a pair of Marigold rubber gloves to put underneath my normal gloves, because even though I got heated grips on the bike, my hands were freezing because they were soaked through. Even the jacket, the Gore-Tex jacket, had started to fail on the seams. I admit it wasn't the most expensive of jackets, but generally it used to be okay. But in 500 miles, hours and hours on that saddle in driving torrential rain, you're going to get wet. The helmet steams up inside, you can't help that. You get water getting sucked up under your helmet. It's not a nice thing. Cold temperatures. Again, people think, oh, we're going into Europe, it's going to be red hot. Not always. It can get pretty cold. When you go up on those mountain passes, for instance, one of the routes we used to do regularly was over the Grossglockner Pass, and you could set off in Berchtesgaden, beautiful blue skies, t-shirt weather. You get up to the top of Grossglockner, we've had a snowball fight. You come down the other side, it's t-shirt weather again. So make sure when you do pack stuff, you pack for cold weather as well as hot weather. We've ridden down to Croatia and we've still gone through snow. And when we've got in Croatia, it was too hot just for shorts even. But we had to drive through snow to get there. And of course the other thing is excessive heat. So make sure you've got some protective equipment you can ride on your bike when it gets really hot. For instance, the jackets where you can open panels up and you've got meshing inside what will let the air flow through. Good touring riders prepare for weather. Waterproofs matter, hydration matters and layering matters. And honestly, sometimes the best decision is to actually stop earlier and check into a different hotel. And while I'm talking about that, what I tend to use when I was running the tours, I used to book the hotels on booking.com, pay the little bit extra, which allows you to cancel up to 24 hours before. Because when you've got a big tour, like we've had 10, 12 people on tour before, somebody will inevitably have a breakdown or something like that and can't make it. By having that little bit of a barrier that all right, you're going to lose that day's booking probably, but you might not lose the second day's because you can change it. So that's something to bear in mind when you're booking. You look at booking.com, and for transparency, I'm not taking any kickback from booking.com, but it is a good system to use if you get the guaranteed cancellation. So let's talk about group riding. This one destroys more tours than mechanical breakdown. Group riding sounds brilliant in theory. When it works well, it is brilliant, but when it doesn't, it's an absolute nightmare. It can become chaos very, very quickly. Different riding speeds, different personalities, different ideas, different risk levels, different bike performances. And there's always one person who thinks that he's auditioning for MotoGP. Do you really want to be riding with him? Unless you're auditioning as well. The key to successful group riding is always ride for yourself. Don't try to keep up with a guy in front just because he can ride fast. Doesn't necessarily mean you can. But one of the main things is when you're group riding is have a set of rules that everybody abides to. Everybody agrees to them before you leave. This is in the early stages of planning. If you're doing it with a group of mates, sit down, discuss what each individual person's needs are, and their expectations, and design it around that. And if you are riding with mates, always ride to the weakest person's abilities, because I'll guarantee if you all shoot off and you've got one rider who's not as quick as you, who's not as experienced as you, he's going to come off because he's going to try and keep up with you. So bear that in mind when you're picking who's going on the route, and of course the route you're going to take. Another huge mistake that people make is not preparing your bike properly. You can spend thousands on your tour, your ferry costs, your fuel, your accommodation, taking time off work, but you don't prepare your bike. Setting off on tyres what aren't going to make it around the distance what you're going to be doing. Chains not correctly adjusted or rusty. Brakes almost worn out. Not much oiling, not having a recent service, no punch kit, no breakdown cover. All these things add up, and we've seen them all on our tours. Having a spare set of bulbs, a simple thing like that can save your day or your night. And also learn a few basic roadside repairs. You've not got to be the next mechanic, but just basic things like changing a bulb, like pumping your tyre up, like adjusting your brakes, adjusting your clutch cable, your brake cable. You don't have brake cables now, do you? It's hydraulic. Forget that one. But you might be on a bike what's got a brake cable. And finally, a lot of riders think that the more miles they do, the better the tour's been. And that's instead of experiencing the trip. The experience of the trip is what makes the tour. Have you ridden with a good group of people? Have you seen some fantastic scenery? Have you seen the local people, met the local people, got yourself immersed in their cultures? It's things like that what you remember. Some of my best memories of touring weren't always the roads. It's the random cafes we'd not planned to stop at, but we did. Met fantastic people there, were treated like royalty. The mountain villages, the ferry crossings, the Channel Tunnel crossings, conversations with locals, getting lost and finding a way out, and the unexpected stops along the way. That's what makes the tour. It's nice when everything goes like clockwork, and everything goes to plan. That's fantastic. But let's be honest, that doesn't always happen. There's always somebody who's going to break down, has a problem with the bike, and that can upset the whole plan for the day. It happens, you just have to deal with it. Just remember, the motorcycle is the tool that gets you there. It's about the journey, not the destination. At the beginning of the video I promised you a bonus tip, so here it is. Always have a plan B, because eventually something will change. Bad weather, breakdown, closed roads, ferry cancellations, fatigue, or simply not enjoying yourself. The best touring riders aren't the ones who stick to the plan, they're the ones who are flexible, the ones who can adapt. If you're tired, stop early or leave later. If the weather's too bad, change your plans for the day. Don't take unnecessary risks. If you discover an amazing place, why not stay another day? Another advantage of using booking.com. At the end of the day, the trip's supposed to be enjoyable. It's not a military operation. And honestly, some of the best tours we've been on is when things have gone wrong. Unexpected things. So those are some of the biggest mistakes I've seen that new people to touring can make or do make. If you've done motorcycle touring yourself, let me know in the comments below. What mistakes did you make when you first started out? And what would your bonus tip be? If you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up, click that subscribe button and be notified when we release another episode. Ride safe, ride smart and enjoy the journey. See you next time.